I finally got around to watching the last Terminator movie, Dark Fate or whatever. And I know some people say, I actually liked it. Quite, of course, truth in advertising. I like Genesis too. Two very different takes, and I could see Cameron very clearly in Dark Fate. Okay, his voice, if you will, in putting that movie together, and I thought Linda Hamilton was remarkable in it. I liked the twist on the Terminator. Okay, I can see why people were upset about we spent all this time saving John to save humanity, and then he gets blown away. I mean, it's kind of like the incredibly awful scene in the opening of the third Aliens movie, where everybody you cared about from Aliens 2 is killed in the crash. Okay, you're like, and I'm going to watch this because,
Yeah.
So I understand why people had that reaction. I really do. And it was a risky move to do that after we'd invested so much time in John. But Genesis already showed that the franchise was willing to screw around with John. I mean, and I actually think this was more satisfying than turning him in. That was the one point in Genesis that just I thought was totally unnecessary. Was we're going to turn John into the villain. But I thought it was interesting that even though John was killed, his mom and the Terminator and he had done enough to keep Skynet from ever coming into existence. Okay, so they played fair with creating the Sarah Connor character that they needed for Dark Fate. But I think it was largely because the movie was told in Cameron's voice that it worked for me.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And I have to admit, I especially liked the scene. Sarah and Danny are riding off into the sunset, and you know who Danny's mentor is going to be, and now you understand why, the machine's going to get its butt kicked even in that future, kind of thing. It was, I thought it was well done. I don't know if there's a future in the franchise. I mean, they're pretty much out of Terminators now. And she's now lost her early warning system to tell her when Terminators are turning up. But I thought they did a fair job. I approach movies like this from the viewpoint of someone who is a storyteller himself. And so I'm not simply absorbing the story. I'm absorbing the way they chose to tell the story, how they dealt with plot points in it. That to me, they needed to, that's how they did it. You see what I'm saying? I know that, J.J. Abrams, franchise killer, is sort of a view that some people have. But I'm, I think that doing a reboot of an incredibly popular franchise is always jungling hand grenades. Okay? It's either going to work and people are going to say, hip, hip, hurrah, and then the franchise gets the credit for it. Or there are going to be people who say, oh my God, I can't believe they fill in the blank. Okay? And it's kind of what I was talking about doing posthumous sequels, and they have to be done in your own voice. Okay? If you're going to take if you're going to create a reboot or a sequel to a successful movie franchise, either you need to have some of the same creative team, which is what they did with Dark Fate. I mean, not only they had Cameron, but they had Hamilton and they had Schwarzenegger. Okay, which trust me is just as important as who's behind the camera. But the only other way to go is to say, okay, we're going to make this a very clear break. Okay, so we're going to kill Jim Kirk's father. Okay, and the opening sequence, and we're going to go a totally different direction with the series. And there were people who were like, "Oh my God, Wrath of Khan! I can't believe they couldn't come up with a, you know." But when you think about it, they've stipulated that the universes are diverging. Okay, but the same people who were in it, at least before Jim Kirk's father was killed, are still in it. And so there's going to be, okay, we discovered Khan at 20, 30 years later in the original Trek universe. Okay, but in this universe, we're expanding much more aggressively. We're a more militant Starfleet, you know, etc. So to me, it made sense. And I love Cumberbatch. Okay, I mean, you know, he's great in anything he does. That helped, you know, get me to not kvetch about that plot line. The other thing they did is, thank God, they tried to at least fix the glaring crapola ending of the first reboot, where a guy who hasn't quite graduated from the academy yet is given command of the newest and best starship. I was sitting there going, tell me you didn't do that. After you did so well up to that point, tell me you didn't do that. And they're like, nope, we did it. And I was like, well, you just turned a possible 9 into a 6.4, okay? I mean, I was like, but I digress, yeah. Well, it's kind of like that whole Next Generation episode with the Borg cube, okay? I could take the Borg cube out in 32 seconds. No problem. Okay? And people go like, oh, no, man, it trashed Starfleet. Starfleet shouldn't have fought it. And I'm like, what? You know, and I'm like, okay, look. You know how those personal shields, they reset against the phasers. And so the boarding parties, you know, they only get a few shots before they have to leave or reset the, you know, so. I would love to see their personal shields reset against 5 kilos of antimatter beamed into the heart of the cube. I mean, gone, you know, in less than 60 seconds. But no, we have to get Jean-Luc back. So in order to get Jean-Luc back, we're going to get most of Starfleet slaughtered. Okay, wait, I don't think this is a good trade. And as somebody who writes military fiction, okay, to me, that was like, first of all, it was stupid. Okay, and secondly, the trade-offs that were being made by the writers were stupid. And to have Riker at the end of it say, oh, no, I cannot have a ship of my own. I must go back and sit at Obi-Wan's feet. You know, in a real-life Navy, okay, the promotion board would say, you know, if you think you need to be a commander, you're probably the best judge of that. So that's okay. And there's a refuse disposal station in Ganymede orbit that is a commander's belt, and it's yours for the rest of your career, Bubba. I mean, you know, we just lost 80-90% of Starfleet, and this guy who commanded in the battle is saying, oh, no, I can't take one of those ships. And they're worried about Jean-Luc maybe having been affected by the Borg. Okay? I said, watching that episode, I said, why don't they, okay, Enterprise is the biggest, baddest ship they got left. Okay, it just became the flagship of the Federation fleet, whether it was or not before. Jean-Luc is now the admiral at sea, and Riker is his flag captain, and that will have somebody riding herd on Picard to make sure that if there was some Borg back door left in there, there's somebody who knows him to recognize it. And we can send Riker down to the planets in full Kirkian mode and get him blown away because we still have Jean-Luc. But no.